Welcome to Never Rewrite. I'm Isaac Askew.
And I'm Jeffrey Sherman. And today we're going to discuss feeling like anyone could have done it. So this topic comes up a lot when you're making iterative changes, especially where a lot of the changes you make are simple and they're small, and pretty much anyone could have done it, right? Anyone could have at any point walked in and fixed this little piece of code or that piece of code. And as they pile up and as they get these larger and larger impacts from your small, is it avalanches, your little pebbles, and it's bigger impact. Uh, a lot of times you get this feeling of like, well, am I really doing anything special? Because anyone could have done it, right? There's nothing in here that like a freshman, or not freshman, but like a first year developer couldn't have done. Like they could have done all of these changes. These are very simple changes. But the key there is anyone could have done it, but you're the one who did. And what's important is to recognize the value of being the one to think of making the change. And that's the underrated part.
This has happened, I think, a lot in my career, where, like, even just recently, I don't know if you have any anecdotes, or I can go into one.
Go into one.
We had there was a series of database issues, and somebody was, or many things were querying the database for ACL, like permission related things for a user, up to like 7,000 times a second for the main database. And so when we came in and looked at the issue, we saw someone was standing up Redis, someone had stood up a reader, and they had moved these ACL queries to the reader to offset all the hammering that was being done to the writer.
Not a bad decision. Like it's a reasonable decision.
Reasonable. And so we were looking, they had the new AWS query monitor thing. It tells you what the highest queries are and metrics, like really good metrics that are just kind of built into RDS now, which is kind of nice if you turn on the checkbox for it. I think you have to pay for any retention over a week. Anyway, so we looked at that, and there are many other queries that were hitting stupid times per second. Like for an application with, let's say, 800 active users, it was really weird to hit a database related to permission 7,000 times a second.
That's a lot.
So it's a lot. And so they were standing up Redis because they wanted to cache that query instead because it was permissions related. And the more I thought about it, which didn't take very long, I'm like, I think something's busted in the application. This is a very strange thing for us to be trying to consider, writers and then caching queries and all that. Like, what if this is just one or two bad queries that we can fix, and then we don't have to worry about. They ended up scaling up the writer before they did this by like 4 times, and they were paying exorbitant costs for RDS because they were trying to handle all these queries. And while you should be able to find gentler ways to handle those queries with, caching them or offsetting them to the reader, it doesn't necessarily always mean that, that's the best choice of action. So we looked into it, and there was just this weird. There was like pages you could access, and then there was another table where did you have permissions or not to access those tables. So there's 2 tables that were doing this, and instead of joining them, they pulled all the pages first, and then in PHP looped through every page to fire another single individual query to find if you should be able to hit it. Right? So
why have one query when you could have O to the n squared?
yeah, which I'll want to say maybe it made sense back in the day, but I can't find a way that ever made sense. It must have just been some old way someone threw it together. But I refactored it to be a single query as it should be. And it reduced it to, I think, 82 times per second for other users. There's probably a couple other areas that were using it. It wasn't just one. It was one area was doing it, but there was many areas that were doing something similar. So it was still a heavy reduction from 8,000 to 80. So anyway, after doing that with quite a few different areas that seemed crazy, we fixed them in the application. then we were able to move more evenly distribute the reader and writer stuff, and then scale down the database. So they saved a ton of money just instead of like trying to scale up and buy better machines with caching and do all this
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Just spend. I think it took 5 hours of work to save about 8 grand a month.
That's
you know,
good. 8 grand a month, you're getting into like a whole developer.
yeah. So that's my piece, my
That's
anecdote.
that's a great story. I recently just was in some code and there were errors, and their errors had been there for years. So I tracked them down and I fixed them. And then similarly, just the amount of logging, like I think I got rid of logs by 10 million an hour because they
Mm,
were not writing these meaningless errors. Like they were the kind of thing that PHP will just ignore. And so you could get, like, it didn't matter whether you checked first or if it failed and then just continued on, because PHP is lovely like that. And you just do it and it's like, oh, look, our logging is so much easier. And like it when you're, well, I guess where I'm going with this is when you're iterating, right? And you've got this mental model, much of what you do and the way you think about it is going to be very small. It's going to be small things that are going to seem like, hey, it's no big deal. And the code itself, making those code changes is no big deal. And that's true. But thinking about it, understanding the system, like those are the things that you need to remember and realize that you are adding the value.
right. I think similarly, when you think about like people, everyone thought to do it, but I'm the only one who did it. That kind of
Mm-hmm.
concept. Um, you probably ran into this many times where there's something that's always bugged you that it's just you get used to it over time.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I noticed recently was we had this kind of makeup make down thing where like when you do makeup, Docker would build all your stuff for you and get your local host running. And then when you make down, it would tear everything down, but it would also tear down the volume, like the MySQL database attached to it, which was frustrating because when you make up again, you had to make a new user and it was a brand new fresh database.
Okay.
And then
Took
someone just
longer.
fixed it to not tear down the volume one day. So
Yeah.
my user persisted and I can keep using the same user. And I was like, I was complaining about that, but never got around to it. Thank you for actually doing it. And so I see things like that happen all the time where it's like, especially if you're fresh to something,
Yeah.
the more you work in something, the more you go like, oh, that just always breaks that way. You just got to deal with it. But then somebody will finally be like, okay, that really annoys me. I'm going to fix it so we stop
Mm-hmm.
talking about it. And then everyone's happy and celebrates. Thank you for finally fixing that thing that we just never did. I've
There's
seen it
a
happen so many times.
legendary developer. Uh, Apple Wallet used to not delete things. Like in the first few iterations of the iPhone, Apple Wallet wouldn't delete things. So you go to a concert and then it would be that ticket would be in your wallet forever. You'd get on a flight and that ticket would be in your wallet forever. And true story, a developer went, got a job at Apple, fixed that thing in his first week, and then quit.
That sounds like a myth. Is that
No,
real?
it's a true, like that's why it's so legendary. Like somebody actually did this.
I've heard people talk about the same thing for Reddit. Reddit's video player. Like if you try to replay a video or something, it'll just sit there and churn every now and then. Everyone, it's like it's famous for being terrible, and people are like,
Mm.
"I would join Reddit just to fix the dang video player, then I'd leave." So maybe that was based off this legendary guy or girl
Right,
or
yes, I
gal.
think people would
But
always joke about, but like if I went to all the effort of getting a job at Apple, I would stay at Apple.
I mean, some good money. It's good stocks.
Good stocks. Yeah, I don't know anything about working at Apple. I have never met anyone who did. But if I put in the effort, I would keep the job.
I knew somebody who worked at the Genius Bar. Does that count?
Maybe it does technically. It's more than I ever did. Awesome. So, just to summarize, when you part of the negativity around iterating and thesis shipping and just putting out small changes is that you don't feel like you're having a big impact.
Hmm.
And what we're trying to remind you is, yeah, your code isn't going to be amazing and have a giant impact all at once. But that's okay because it's all the knowledge work. And, the example we were discussing before we started recording, famous painter Jackson Pollock, he literally threw paint at canvas. He would dip sticks into paint cans and he would flick paint onto it. And people would look at it and be like, anyone could do that. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, in art classes, but certainly when I was a kid in school, like they'd do a unit on Jackson Pollock and you'd get out some paint cans, you'd flick paint at the canvas, and you know what? It wouldn't look as good. Like, one, it's actually much harder than it looks. And two, anyone maybe could have done it, but he's the one who thought of it and did it
Right.
and realized that it had value. And that's what you are. You have to be the painter who looks at it and says, I can do this simple thing that anyone could do, and it's going to have value, and I should do it.
Yeah. I think too, helping, I think the things that you should do can be illuminated by some of the lessons also we've discussed in prior podcast episodes, where the things that stood out, like when it came to the RDS solution I had earlier, was how much he was paying. I saw a graph of how much this guy was paying per month, and I'm like, whoa, why? And then I saw the database, and so if you don't just get lost in, I guess we should refactor stuff because this is our job, and you also understand pain points with the business, that can kind of like lead you to discover those things, to have those Pollock ideas of, maybe we should do something like this instead. Because there's plenty of ways, like if you just listen to the developers who complain about, my local development is so difficult. There's someone just threw you an idea. Staging email sending never works. Great thing to fix. You hear people throw out these great ideas all the time, but you might get numb to them just because you're just like doing your own thing. But just listen to your developers and listen to people complaining about the business, and they're giving you free ways to go and make a huge impact.
Yeah, that's another great call, right? You have a mental model. You know how, or you get a sense, an idea of how things should be. And so when they're not that way, you'd be like, well, that's not weird. That's wrong. Something's wrong there.
For sure.
Oh, excellent. Thank you all for listening. I'm Jeffrey Sherman.
And I'm Isaac Askew, and this is Never Rewrite.